Hello, and welcome to Right for America. Issues that unite, don't ignite. I am your host, Cindy Gross. Many of you know me as the Jewess Patriot, but as you know, you do not have to be Jewish to be a part of our show. The issues that concern Jews concern all of us if you have common sense. I want to thank all of you for tuning in, and we have a huge show today. But before we begin, as always, I just want to make the formal disclosure that uh, the views of our guest are not necessarily the views of the America First Warehouse, WGBB Radio, any of the outlets that share our show, and of course, Cindy's Corners Productions and Cindy Gross, the Jewess Patriot. We engage in all conversation and welcome everyone to participate in a peaceful, respectful manner. And with that, we're going to go into our opening pearls of wisdom. And as you can see, I'm back to wearing my pearls because there's just so much wisdom to share. I can't believe every single day we turn on the news and we see so much going on. My opening pearls of wisdom are about right wing influencers and journalists who are exposing themselves as anti Semites on social media and in mainstream media. And if we're going to be honest and talk about all the anti Semitism on the left, we have to be aware and fight the growing anti Semitism in the extreme right Republican conservative wing because it's happening more and more each and every day. And many of us who voted for Donald Trump and a conservative Republican House and Senate did not sign up for anti Semitism and hate in the Republican and conservative parties. And it's become a very big issue. And it scares me because I see this every single day. A lot of you are watching us on social media right now and follow the same people that I am, as this audience has grown so much thanks to your support. Even a recent guest of mine just the other day posted something factually inaccurate and filled with anti Semitism. I will tell you that one of the strengths we have right now is watching the Democratic Party fall apart with all their hate because they did not learn the lesson that Americans do not want hate and violence. They haven't learned from 2020. They haven't learned from the George Floyd events, the riots there. They haven't even learned from Rodney King's in the 1990s. People want peace. And this morning on CNN, I saw the poll myself that immigrants who are here legally stand with President Trump and stand with him for bringing in the National Guard in California. They didn't leave violence and poverty to come to America for a better lifestyle for themselves and their children to experience what's going on in California and what is expected nationwide over the weekend. And that is very, very, very important. But I want to be clear. While we're watching these riots in California about immigration, there's a load of Hamas supporters with flags and their coverings and people supporting Sharia law. This is America. This is about freedom. This is the place where people come to educate people, to have good lives for their children, so that women can have jobs and women can make money and women can drive cars and women can go to college. I think it's time for all of us to have a big lesson about pre-1980 Middle East. Look at pictures of women in Iraq and Iran in the 1970s. It's not that hard to find, and there's plenty of information and people that are still alive to tell their stories and what happened under Sharia law and the violence that took place in those countries that's coming to America, Europe, South America, and other countries. It's time to take a look and explore the area that Gaza was before the Israelis voluntarily gave it up. A beautiful, thriving community called Gush Katif with gorgeous buildings, updated technology, updated irrigation in a hot desert land, beautiful tourist attractions, education and businesses thriving. Families were driven out of their homes for the sake of peace in the Middle East. Those that chose to live there had the choice to take advantage of what Israel left them. Instead, a few despots decided to live gloriously on while allowing the majority of people to struggle, to learn about hate and violence and children killing other children, live in poverty, and build underground tunnels to kill Israelis. You know what you're not hearing in the news and these influencers and journalists aren't sharing? The Palestinians that have been murdered by Hamas because they are trying to tell the truth. You're going, what am I talking about? Well, exactly my point. You know what people are not talking about enough? They're not talking about what happened on October 7th. 20-year-olds, imagine your own children and grandchildren going to a concert, or you're sitting at a Shabbat lunch table, or if you're a Sunday churchgoer, you go to church, you come home, you have a meal together as a family, and all of a sudden, your house is attacked. Women are raped, babies are burnt right in front of their family members. Men are shot. Children are shot in front of parents. Bodies are mutilated. In any other society, the world would be outraged. All those celebrities who talk about women's rights have been silent. It's now 613 days, and 613 is a very important number in the Jewish religion. It's the amount of laws we have. I am telling you that you must be more alert about what is going on, because what happened to the Democratic Party can happen to the Republican Party sooner than you think. There are a couple people in Congress who are openly sounding just like the extreme left that you guys are very concerned about. People like Marjorie Taylor Greene. And there was a time I had met with her and she talked about her support for the Jewish people, but I can no longer support that. And of course, Thomas Massie, who sounds like an Arab who supports Hamas more than an American supporting American Jews who pay his salary with their tax dollars. It is a very scary time, and it's time for us all to wake up. I have been saying it now for 2 years, and now I'm starting to see other people talk about the lack of leadership in the Jewish community, the lack of leadership in supporting realistic legislation, and too much leaning on influences. And I'm going to talk more about that in my next segment. To paraphrase Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee, he was asked recently in an interview, why does he support Israel so much? And he says, it's easy. You see, Jews don't have to support Christians, but Christian Zionists, everything that they learn all starts with the Jews. And believe me, they're not going after Israel and American Jews. They're going after Western democracy. It's very obvious what's happening in Los Angeles is the start of it. You see the difference in Germany and France versus the conservative leadership of Hungary and Poland. Where do you feel safe today in Europe? That's my thoughts. I'd love to hear from you and get you more involved in the discussion. You can email me at thejewspatriot@gmail.com. Now, we are a live show, and you saw we have two major guests coming on. The first guest coming on is Congressman Paul Gosar from Arizona, who I just was told is going to be delayed a few minutes because he's actually on the floor in Congress with votes. So we're going to now switch around the show a little bit, and I'm going to talk about our brand new segment, Make Yourself Great Again. Because so many people I know are talking about making America great again, but yet within their own lives they're not happy. And this is not a political issue, it's a common sense issue. They are so confused by the abundance of information out there on products, what's healthy, what's not. Are they spending their time the right way, the wrong way? So many people out there are actually lonely, which is quite amazing because in our society, there are so many advantages to enjoy so many activities. And yet, people keep talking about how they aren't living up to what they think they should be. So each and every week, we're going to be talking about how average American people like you and like me, regardless of where you live, what your religious background is, your age, your wealth, what you do for a living, it doesn't matter. We could all take those little steps to make ourselves better. First thing I'm going to talk about is MAHA, because that also has been a very big topic. As we know, the news just yesterday that Secretary Kennedy is eliminating the people that vote for vaccines. Well, I'm going to tell you something. I don't understand so much of the chemicals, and I started questioning a lot myself. What's in my everyday household products? What's in the supplements? Why is there more skin cancer today than when I was growing up, when everybody wore suntan oil and did not wear sunscreen? I just don't know. Well, I was fortunate enough to find out about a group that has products that are American made, non toxic, and now tariff free. It's such a great organization that USA Today recently named it the #1 business in the country. And that's coming from USA Today, which isn't necessarily a patriotic group. So I am going to start each week highlighting a product. We're going to do giveaways and contests. And the best thing of all, I have met the most incredible group of patriots. Doesn't necessarily mean they're Republican, doesn't necessarily mean they're Democrat, doesn't necessarily mean they're from New York or from Texas or from Idaho. What it means is that we become smarter consumers and that we found a family where not only do we talk about products, but because we meet on Zoom meetings and in discussions, we have found friendships. So here are a few of the products, and I'm going to give you guys an assignment. I want you to start to look at your shampoos, your conditioners, your household products, your beauty products, and I want you to start reading the back of the labels. I know you can't see it here. Again, you can email me at thejewspatriot@gmail.com, and we could have a discussion about it and bring you into a group. But I was amazed how much I was spending on products that had so many warnings on it. That scared me. And then I said, oh no, this is going to cost me a fortune. Then I started doing comparison shopping. I found household cleaners that was so non-toxic that I could actually leave on my counter, and God forbid a piece of food touches it, that they're non-toxic, so you're not going to get sick. But this is a concentrated bottle that has 6 to 8 um, bottles, big bottles. You get a big bottle with this, and you reuse. So it turns out if you go to, let's say, that dollar store that near your neighborhood, or that dollar and a quarter or $1.50, this turns out to be less than $1. It's American made, it's non toxic, and it's delivered to your home. And better yet, I don't know if you've been to some, the Sam's Clubs, the BJ's, the Costco's. I know all the memberships have gone up. We have all the time the most cost effective ways for families to save money and be healthier. And it's one of those simple little things that you could do for yourself and enjoy and meet people and spend time doing exercises with people. There's a whole group that gets together to discuss nutrition. You really find a lot of nice friends. And some of them you might even recognize from television shows and movies and Instagram and books, because this group attracts men and women from all over the country. And I'd love to tell you more about it. And I'm not trying to make this sound like a commercial, but I'm honestly going to tell you that changing products can really make you feel better. They can make you feel like you're interested in yourself without doing much effort. And that's what these shows are going to be about. Now, I am going to have my first giveaway to the fifth person who emails thejewesspatriot.com, and you will be able to find out who it is on next week's show and through Instagram, X, and my Facebook accounts, Cindy Gross, CindyGrosz. And we are going to talk a lot more about this, but we're also going to talk about exercise and activities and hobbies and my book club, because I will tell you, feeling good about yourself makes everybody feel good around you, and it makes you a better person to make America great again. Again, it's the Jewess Patriot at gmail.com. It's TheJewessPatriot at gmail.com. I know that we should be getting a call any minute from our congressman. I will just share a little bit about the congressman. Congressman Paul Gosar, many of you know that name and will recognize the face as the person from Arizona. As a person from Arizona that in 2020 stood up with Senator Ted Cruz to contest the elections. And now, with the discussion of the auto pen, the discussions of Biden's health, I am sure with more investigations being demanded and with the House still in Republican hands, Congressman Paul Gosar's work is going to be discussed more and more. I am lucky to call him a friend. I'm lucky to be able to say that I'm going to be having lunch with him this week in Washington with a group of distinguished congressmen and senators who support Israel. And I believe he is on the phone now. Can you hear us? I can't hear.
Can you hear us?
Very little.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, great.
Hello?
Can you hear
Congressman?
me? Cindy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. It's an honor. I can't wait to see you in person Thursday. There's so much going on in Washington. I'm really honored to have you take the time on the floor to call in. This is your home. This is Right for America. I'm sitting in the Trump Museum in Ronkonkoma, New York.
Oh my Lord. You're in heaven.
Hello?
Can you still hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Well, I tell you what, he's the holder of that big, beautiful bill that we're trying to get out of here. And so, I'm looking forward to seeing you too as well.
Well, I know what you have done in Arizona to fight BDS, and I appreciate all the support you have given throughout the years to the securing safety for Jewish Americans and for working on behalf of the Jewish people in Israel. And there's so much going on right now. Tell us, first of all, could we talk a little bit about the big, beautiful bill? Is it going to be passed?
Well, we got it out of the House. It was a narrow and hard fought fight. There's some things I don't like in it, but there's some things I really like about it, and that's our tax cuts. And no one wants to see the taxes being increased on people. So that in itself is going to be good. But now it's in the Senate's hands, and we've seen a couple of the problem senators have already acknowledged that they're signing off. So maybe we're going to have something, maybe by 4th of July. I don't think it'll happen, but it could.
So, Congressman, tell us what's going on in Arizona. Arizona, I mean, when I started in politics, getting really involved again, it was Jan Brewer, it was Joe Arpaio, it was so solid Republican, and everybody was concerned about the border. Of course, you have a governor's race coming up, and I just saw a poll. I know that we have two very strong Republicans in a primary, but that the Democrat is still, I guess, because she's an incumbent, a couple of points ahead. Do you think that we could flip Arizona into the red governorship?
I do believe that will happen. I think what happens once you consolidate the Republicans behind one candidate, I think it's going to be one individual, but if it's not, but they'll consolidate around that one candidate, and we will win it.
Tell us what you think. I mean, we have now 3 months, and there's been so much going on. What do you think has been President Trump's greatest accomplishment in the first couple of months?
Is in trust of the American people. He's told us what he's going to do, and he's done it. And that's how trust is a series of promises kept. And that's how he's built trust. And that's why people are going to stand behind him and get his big, beautiful bill done. And we'll do more than just that because a lot of us are trying to set up this country for success, not for failure.
So you are also a dentist, and of
Hmm.
course, I'm in New York, and of course, mainstream media would like to say that the Republicans are killing Medicaid and Medicare and
Social
everybody who's
Security.
old and all that. We're never going to have medicine the way we know it now. Tell us the truth about what is going on and how the big beautiful bill will protect medical services for our elderly and those who need it.
Well, see, the problem is you bring this up very, very well, Cindy. So the population that has been determined and been dependent upon Medicaid, for every dollar the state puts in, they get $1.57 back. But now these able-bodied with no children on this extended Biden group for that does Obamacare, they get $9 for every $1 the state puts in. Whoa, 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 whoa. So we're seeing all these able-bodied people who can work and get a job and shouldn't be on this program. And yet these other people, these single disabled or women and children with no children, women with children and disabled aren't going to get care. Wrong answer. What we ought to be doing is we ought to be taking those able-bodied people with no children, take them that reimbursement down, put that reimbursement over here on some of the people that really need it and deserve it, and that's what you're going to start really seeing some changes. Now, Medicare needs some help, but that's not a part of this bill. All it basically says is in Medicaid, if you're a well bodied person with no children, you got to go find a job.
Let's talk about international relations.
Okay.
What do you think is what's going to be with Ukraine and Russia? Another situation where fake news, real news, what is going on? Because it seems to be we cannot get out of the situation.
Well, you've got Putin, who has defied all pushes by the president to try to mitigate this. And so now you see that Ukraine has come up with some surprise attacks and actually have gotten into some assets that the Russians never thought they would even come close to. So maybe there's some light at the end of the tunnel. And sometimes, I remember fighting with my little sister, and boy, I'll tell you, it would be a knockdown drag out. And sometimes my mom would throw up her hands and say, "Okay, you take care of it. You both survive. Might have a few more scratches and cuts." That may be the case in Russia.
As I introduced you, I don't know if you heard me talking. No one will forget you and Senator Ted Cruz were the first to get election. And I think now with the whole issue with auto pens and pardons that we're questioning, and of course the health issues, uh, people are going to bring up the 2020 election again, especially before the 2026 congressional races. So why we still have the House and Senate. Uh, what do you know about it? What can you share? I mean, you were such a strong voice about this. And of course, the grassroots were with you. But I think now people, even skeptical people, I'm even hearing Democrats say they can't believe they voted for this and what's coming out now, especially in light of the fact that the press secretary is now an independent that worked with him every day, and Jake Tapper's book. So tell us what's going to go on.
Well, that hearing is coming to come to oversight, and there'll be a lot of questions. The position, President Biden's position, is going to be coming. They've mitigated that, but they had a threatened subpoena. And then we've got some of his workers in the White House. No, we all saw this. Back in 2020 when he was running, he had like 5 or 6 people come to the big rally, and Trump had what, 35,000 or 40,000. So something wrong here, and they knew it was a problem, but they stuck with him. And there was a big problem for me when Joe Biden beats the most popular black first president by a landslide. Wrong answer.
So you're part of the Freedom Caucus, and
Mhm.
you actually are one of the senior congressmen who work with a lot of the young people and mentor them, and they look up to you. And you're so gracious with your time. You have by far one of the nicest, most professional staffs on the Hill. Let me ask you, who do you see as some of the real rising stars for Republicans, not just for 2028 presidential, but really to be leaders in the House?
Well, I don't really think you have it very long. Byron Donalds is a fabulous candidate.
And he's going to be with us Thursday, by the way.
Oh, well, you tell him that Gosehart said, he's highly acclaimed. But I mean, he's one of them. I think you've got this Josh Rakeen out of Oklahoma. He's a good guy. He did a lot of. He interned for Senator. Oh, what was his name? He was a doctor.
I'm not.
Yeah. So, but there's some really rising people that are really thinking outside the box. But those would be two I would think.
I'm looking forward to seeing Randy Fine. I think he has made in the short time he's there, he's made a very loud voice. And it's really getting a lot of national attention.
He
So
has. He got won the special election in Florida.
correct.
And I listened to him on an interview, and he did extremely well.
Well, he's going to be with us Thursday as well.
Oh, he had a great lineup on Thursday.
We have about 20 congressmen. I know Senator Ted Cruz is coming. It's going to be really nice, and it's very intimate. Anything you want to share with us? This is your audience here. These are people that support you from all over the country and support the work and support the president and support MAGA. So what would you like to say to them?
Well, in this big, beautiful bill, there's one thing that really bothers me, and I got to share it. Now, the average wage in Arizona for a family is about 54,000 a year. I find it very hard, and they don't understand it, how we can compensate. They call the salt, state and local taxes, and New York, New Jersey, Illinois, and California would be able to deduct more, like $50,000 per person off their taxes. So what we're really doing is they're subsidizing them. We gotta be playing on parity. We want smaller government. That means all of us, not just Arizona and not Texas, but New York as well.
Well, I happen to agree that I do have a question
Sure.
about education because, first of all, I still have the longest run. I recognized the problems in the schools 20 years ago. I called out Randy Weingarten, and I still have an ongoing lawsuit. And I saw the discrimination, the hate, the misinformation of facts, and the unqualified teachers. So here we are. Saturday, the president is hosting this beautiful Flag Day celebration honoring the military. And Randy Weingarten and a lot of the radical left is hosting and uh, creating what they're calling a day of action against this all across the country that sounds like it's going to be Los Angeles on steroids in 50 states. What is going to be the status of education in the future? Students don't feel safe on colleges. Students don't feel safe in schools. We're teaching the wrong information. We don't have the qualified teachers. What is going to happen with education in the future?
Well, I got to tell you, I think we're going to see a big change with parents. Parents in this country have decided they're going to take this over, and they're doing a fabulous job. You know, we had some of the worst schools in the country. And Cindy, we saw this homeschool movement really take hold. And now we got these schools called bases, and it's got five or six of the top 10 schools, public schools. And so I think it's bright because I think parents are waking up. They know they can't just turn their kids loose. They have to be involved with their kids. And you're very much like your attitude. You know, these are beautiful minds that you got to give. They got to know what's right and wrong, and they'll actually grow into that as long as you make sure that you're staying in touch. Some more than others will be more challenging. You knew that, kind of like Paul Gosar was to a couple of his teachers. You know, but we're gonna make this. But parents have to play such an important role, and family plays such an important.
Absolutely. I think that there is such a need for the discussion of faith and family in this country today. And if you see around the world where it's actually growing more and more, you see more stabilities in their government and on their streets.
You're
I do,
exactly right, Cindy.
I do have to ask you, we are going to a luncheon about anti Semitism with Jewish leadership. And of course, we had the horrific embassy murders. We had the terrible Boulder, Colorado attack from an illegal. And I, as someone who walks not every Sunday, but most Sundays with the Bring Them Home until the last hostage returns, this is horrible. And for me, I am afraid walking the streets of New York. There was an anti Semitic incident in my own community in the past 24 hours. You have become very outspoken around the country. And of course, you were one of the leaders in Arizona fighting BDS, the boycott, discrimination, and sanctions against Israeli products. Tell us your thoughts and what we can do because so many of the people watching are Christian Zionist, and people that support a strong American Israeli relationship because they understand the importance militarily, financially, strategically, militarily. So tell us what we can do in America because it has become a very, very big issue.
You're exactly right. And I have to say, my heart goes out to those two young people. He was buying a ring. He was going to get engaged. What a
And he wasn't even
sad.
Jewish.
No, I know. It's just crippling. But it shows you the fact that these people are indiscriminate. They don't just care. They're using this rallying point that doesn't make any sense. Okay, so last time I looked, or my history may be a little bit off, but you had the Palestinians in Egypt. Didn't work. Then they went to Jordan or Syria, one of the two, and they went to that one afterwards. After the first two you didn't get along with, you might want to look in the mirror because the problem might be you. That's at least I was very taught. But we have to stand strong with Israel. We are the only, they are the only capitalistic country in the Middle East. And look, they wanted to share with Palestinians, and they didn't want it. And you had Donald Trump come up with this idea of a business idea so everybody could benefit. But you had Biden interrupt that. That's too full. So I think this is so important that from the standpoint of like military wise, you look at Golden Dome. Our missiles protection of Israel has been tried out and tested right in front of us in real time. And so we have to benefit. And we always have benefited from that relationship. And you know what? When we talk about a country, the Democrats say they're always tolerant. No, they're not. They're not tolerant of anything. It's their way or the highway. And so we have to push, make sure that we're all Americans. Jewish, Christians aren't targeted. And I can tell you, look at our FBI. They talked about militant Catholics. There you have it.
Congressman, your secretary has just texted me. You need to get back on the floor for another vote. And I am just so honored to have you here. Of course, you have an open invitation. I can't wait to see you on Thursday. Again, Congressman Paul Gosar, this place where I am sitting, the America First Warehouse, absolutely idolizes you. When they heard you were going to be on, they were like, wow, this is unbelievable. Please, and when you come to New York, we would love to host you here live.
Cindy, I'll take you on that. Looking forward to Thursday.
I will see you Thursday. Good luck on the floor. I know there's a lot of votes. And thank you. We really appreciate the time you took to join us.
You betcha. Let's get that Senate over the hump. So chime into your local senator.
I will see. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye now, Cindy.
Bye-bye. Wow, what a conversation. And like I said, we really have to support him because he was one of our leaders questioning 2020. And now Donald Trump, I think, and a lot of the committees in Washington are going to start doing a lot of investigating, especially with all the documentation coming out in all of these books that all of Biden's closest advisors and supporters are now sharing. We have a few minutes before our next guest, so I just want to talk a little bit about something that I hit on with the congressman that I want to make really clear. There is a very, very big difference about anti-Semitism and saying all hate and tolerance. I don't want any hate. I don't want any violence. I would say most people with common sense agree. But it doesn't take rocket science to figure out that Jews are being targeted at a level much more 10, 20, 30-fold of any other group, regardless of age, sexuality, regardless of where they live. This is a universal situation of violence and attack for simply having a religious belief. So when people say we shouldn't have anti Semitism laws or more votes about supporting Israel and fighting anti Semitism, they should include all hate. Let me be very clear to Marjorie Taylor Greene and to all of those radical Democrats and to Thomas Massey and to all those influencers that are sharing misinformation. Why don't you try to go into a restaurant, your favorite restaurant maybe, and just sit down to have dinner with your family, and all of a sudden there are rocks thrown through a window and people calling you murderers, throwing rocks at you for no reason other than because you are Jewish and sitting in a restaurant that is kosher. Are you comparing that to illegals that are being look what's going on. They are raping and murdering people, and you're comparing the violence of that to a simple family having dinner? I think you have to really think logically, sensibly, and realistically. You have to redefine in your minds hate, all hate, and anti Semitism. Very, 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 very clearly. I know that we are expecting our next guest to come on shortly. Everybody says, Cindy, you get great guests. And I do. The next guest is the international spokesperson from the United Nations. But when you have guests who are sitting on the floor in the United Nations and sitting in the House voting on the big, beautiful bills and everything else that they have to clear out before July 4th, you have sometimes some schedule changes. So you have to bear with us. I believe he will be calling in any minute. He also has a new book, also talking about the United Nations. Now, the United Nations is a topic that isn't just Jewish. You don't have to be Jewish to be fed up with what's going on. It's been very clear that the United Nations is an arena where there is a lot of hate going on against America, and we're paying for it. How silly are we? And it is something that has to be addressed in the right way with the right people. And it's something that Jews, Christians, even moderate Muslims agree on. Do we need a United Nations even? Do we need it in New York and pay for it all? Don't forget, New York pays for this more than any other place because we have to use New York security, New York police, and law enforcement. Do we really need it? Do we really want it? And of course, as a Jew, I'm very skeptical about the United Nations because people that rely on Israel for help when they're in crisis consistently vote against us, despite the fact that they have Jews living in those countries. So I believe they're going to be calling in any minute. And I'm going to take a couple of questions from you because some of you are already reaching out about some of the products. They want to know what is here. So there are over 450 products for this company, and they range from supplements to protein drinks and powders to dishwashing lotions to makeup to even ibuprofen and what you consider, the comparison to Tylenol. Mints. They have meats. The meats are not kosher, so I don't personally buy them. But here's the difference, because everybody I know who eats them says the same thing. They've never tasted meat like what they're buying in this country. And the reason is because the place where the cattle are ranging, They actually grow all of the food that the cows are eating. So it is all monitored without pesticides and chemicals and toxins, what they're feeding the cows, what goes in. And the result is meat that is healthier, richer in nutrients, and much better tasting. And they have a full range of meats. What's really good also, you order and within 3 to 4 days you get everything delivered to your house. I love the fact I don't have to go stand on long lines anymore. And I'm relying on an American company, and I'm relying on a company that is using all American patriotic workers. That's really very important. We wouldn't have some of the issues right now going on if we really supported America more. If we really supported the average everyday person more. It makes such a big difference. And this company gives back to veterans groups, to groups that are affected by illnesses, to groups that support healthy living. They support you because you help them. So remember, reach out to me at thejewesspatriot@gmail.com, TheJewessPatriot@gmail.com. And there is something, I'm hoping that we're going to get this any minute. We should be getting it. I'm hoping we get him to call in. He's also in an emergency meeting at the United Nations and just texted me. So hopefully we'll be able to get him in. Is he coming on? Do I see something? Okay. Welcome to the show. As I mentioned, the international spokesperson from Israel, Danny Danone's assistant at the United Nations, and he has a book coming out very soon called Unveiled. We are getting a preview, a little bit about it. He has an international background, and I'm just so happy to welcome my friend, Jonathan Harimoff, and I know it's super busy. Can you hear me? Oh, I'm sorry. We thought he was coming in. He's not coming in so well. There's a technical issue at the United Nations. What can I tell you? 1 second. We are going to get this. I promise you. Is it coming in yet? It is coming in. I want to thank my audience today, especially for staying here, because both of my guests were supposed to have video in person, and of course, we make plans and God has other ones. But thanks to the wonderful technology, he should be here any minute. Can you hear me? Jonathan, can you hear me?
Hi, Cindy. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you so much. I know you are super busy at the United Nations, and we are just so honored to have you. And it's great to have an international voice here joining us, because so many people who are following this show and are supporters of the America First Warehouse support Israel and are very upset with how things are going in the United Nations, both for Americans and Israel. So first of all, introduce yourself to the audience, because you have quite a unique background.
Thanks so much, Cindy, for having me on your incredible show, and it's great to be with your audience. My name's Jonathan Harinoff. I'm Israel's international spokesman for the United Nations. Been in the role for about a year. Born and raised in London, and my background's in journalism before joining the Israeli mission. I covered Israel, Iran, and anti-Semitism for around 7 years for a variety of publications, including the New York Post and the Jerusalem Post. And during that time, I spent 3 years writing about this story that wasn't written about enough, about the women life freedom protest movement in Iran. And I have a book coming out about that incredible topic that is unspoken about this September. And especially nowadays, when so much of the news is focused on all of the dangerous things that the Islamic Republic's doing with its foreign policy, with its nuclear plans, it's a very opportune time to also look inside what's going on inside Iran, what's going on with the people of Iran, the people who are opposed to the regime and who, like the people of Israel and the people of America, have suffered at the hands of the Islamic Republic. So that's a bit about what I've been working on. And in terms of what we're doing at the United Nations, it's similar to what you alluded to. We're in a den of darkness, to say the least, and we're very grateful to the tremendous support of the United States, whether it's in the Security Council and the General Assembly, and the partnership there is rock solid. And we saw that last week where there was a Security Council vote on an immediate ceasefire that was put forward by the E10 of the Security Council, which means the 10 elected members of the Security Council, and they called essentially for an immediate ceasefire. The problem with that was that they did not demand an immediate release of the hostages, and they also didn't formally condemn Hamas. So, of course, Israel was opposed to this, but Israel doesn't have a vote inside the Security Council. So the United States pointed out this very obvious issue with this resolution that no other member of the Security Council really mentioned, and it vetoes the resolution. So the resolution never passed, even though the other member states voted in favor. And that's just one indication of the rock solid partnership that Israel and the US have. Sometimes there may be differences, but I think that's also the hallmark of a strong relationship. You may not always have identical viewpoints or approaches, but you have the kind of relationship where you discuss things behind closed doors, and you move forward. And no less because Israel and the United States face very much the same threats. We face the same threats, whether it's from the Islamic Republic, from Hamas. Many of the victims, as we know from October the 7th, were not just Israelis. They were very international, American, Argentinian, Thai, British. So if anything, the United Nations should have been way more invested and way more concerned about the horrific atrocities of October the 7th, because it didn't just impact Israelis, it impacted a whole cohort of people. And we've seen a real lack of focus and attention on that, and much more of a focus on the delegitimization and demonization of Israel, which we will not tolerate and continue to stand up against.
So the name of the book that's coming out is called Unveiled. And tell us a little bit, give us a little taste of what we're going to be learning from the book.
So the book is available for pre-order now, comes out September 25th, 2025. The full title is Unveiled: Inside Iran's Women Life Freedom Revolt. And it draws on exclusive untold interviews I had with Iranians who've been living inside Iran, Iranians in the diaspora, and key voices of the opposition who, at the end of 2022, stood up against the regime and put up what turned out to be the most significant challenge to the Islamic Republic in its 46-year history, which is quite extraordinary. You would have thought that one of the most existential threats the regime would have faced would have been perhaps from the United States or from Israel or somewhere else. But no, the most significant threat that the Islamic Republic faced in its 46-year history was from its own women and girls and people who had had enough of the Islamic Republic. What happened was in September 2022, the 13th of September to be exact, there was a young Kurdish Iranian woman named Mahsa Amini who was traveling to Tehran with her family. And she, like many other Iranian girls, was stopped in the street by the morality police for allegedly wearing her hair too loosely. She was forcibly taken to a police station, and where she was beaten to a pulp. She fell into a coma and eventually died. And that sparked nationwide protests. And I think one of the reasons why it sparked such intense protests was because so many Iranians recognized that it could have happened to them. And it led to nationwide protests that spread to almost every single one of Iran's provinces. And it lasted many, many, many months. It gained international support. And unfortunately, of course, it didn't succeed in toppling the Islamic Republic, but it did lead to very significant change, which I outline in the book. I talk about its successes, but I also talk about why it didn't succeed. And I talk about its legacy. And I think especially with the 3-year anniversary of Mahsa Amini's death coming up in September, this book is a very important spotlight on what happened and what a new future Ayatollah-free Iran might look like.
So, as we close, because I know you have to get back on the floor and the show's going to close soon, what are the most important facts you want to share for an American audience about what is going on in the United Nations and what we should really be concerned about as supporters of Israel, both Jewish and non-Jewish?
I would say the most important statistics that I don't hear echoed enough in the halls of the United Nations is that there are very simple reasons why the conflict in the Middle East continues to go on. And it's not because of Israel. It's because of the number 55. 55 hostages who are living and deceased, who were brutally abducted by Hamas terrorist organization, are still being held in captive for 613 days. And that, along with the fact that the Hamas terrorist regime continues to reign in Gaza at the expense of Gazans, that is why we're seeing a conflict rage. And Israel will not stop fighting this war until every single one of those hostages come home, and until Hamas no longer poses a significant threat to Israel on its southern border. And those very basic facts are not echoed enough in the halls of the United Nations.
Well, it's so funny because I saw, I guess last week, there was something on the floor and the representative from the Palestinians was crying about what happened. But he neglects to say that everything was peaceful on October 6th. And that it was all started from their side. And people seem to forget that. And it's not until every hostage is home, alive, unfortunately some of them will not be coming home alive, and there is peace, and nobody wants peace more than the Israelis and Americans and Jews around the world. Nobody wants to live together with Arabs, with Christians, with people from all different backgrounds than Jews, and they will support them and help them in every way. I know for a fact I was a few years ago at the United Nations when Prime Minister Netanyahu was there offering irrigation to poor countries in Africa that don't support us. So you're absolutely right. We have to get out more facts, and we've got to build our support, because despite the fact that we have a history of thousands of years of people trying to destroy us, we are still here and we're not going anywhere. So it's better to work together than to continue to fight and spread hate and violence. Jonathan Haranoff, international spokesperson from Israel at the United Nations, please come back anytime to Write for America. And we appreciate you calling. I know it is so busy. Next time we're going to have you in studio or on video.
Thank you so much, Cindy. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to the next occasion.
Thank you so much. And with that, we are going to be having a very short closing because, as you can see, the time is running out. And we had a very unique show today. But again, if it wasn't for such a great audience, this could not go on, because you really helped us today through two amazing interviews that had to be adjusted because of history news happening both in Washington and in the United Nations. So Thank you again for tuning in. We have another great show lined up. And again, if you want to win the products and join the contest, it's email to the JewessPatriot@gmail.com. This is Cindy Gross, the Jewess Patriot. Right for America, issues that unite, don't ignite, live from the America First Warehouse. Thank you and see you next week.